Did you see that? That was just one hit among thousands of similar hits that take place in high school football games across the country every Friday and Saturday. Boom. That one there, the guy got up, he was okay, but it hasn't been that way always. This was the Cheshire Sheehan game this past week. But over on Long Island and a couple other places in the country, players died this past week, and it all comes on top of the big concussion scare that's been going on in the NFL. Certainly lots of talk about it, and we have brought in somebody to join us for the conversation. Her name is Stephania Bell, a certified physical therapist and an injury analyst with ESPN, to talk about what's going on here. We only have a couple minutes here. What's your reaction to the deaths of these high school players, possibly, likely from the hits?
Well, it's tragic. You never want to see the death of any young athlete, and 3 within a week really brings heightened attention to it.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to create awareness that there are potential risks with any collision sport. But now it's time to have a conversation about those facts.
Well, it certainly is, because of we found out from the NFL itself that they estimate 1/3 of its players, people who play there, will have the effects of head injury, shortened lifespans, early onset dementia, so forth. If a parent comes to you and saying, my 8th grader, 7th grader, fill in the blank, wants to play football, plays football, and I'm really worried after this week especially, what do you say?
Well, I'd say I'm glad you asked the question, because I think it is important to discuss with parents what the risks are for playing in any collision sport, but also that the data shows that the numbers of those severe traumatic injuries that end in death is very small relative to the hundreds of thousands of athletes who participate in football. So it's also important for parents to be educated on recognizing concussion symptoms.
Well, you made a point earlier that this had become an emotional issue, not just a medical issue. What did you mean by that?
Well, whenever you see the death of a young athlete, it touches your heart. And so the reaction becomes one of fear. I don't want that to happen to my child. And that's understandable. But I think that's where you have to go and look at the larger picture, the data again. Number of deaths last year in football was 13. Yeah. Across the country, out of hundreds of thousands participating. So while it is of concern, I think it's important to understand that it's not necessarily a trend that we see. It's not like the numbers on the rise, but we are bringing more attention and awareness to it. It's important to have safety measures in place for every high school. It's important to have trained and licensed personnel there for practices and games. It's important that coaches, it's the law in Connecticut, that coaches go through concussion training, that parents go through concussion training.
Stephanie, we appreciate you stopping by so much and bringing some balance to what, like you say, has been a very emotional argument between the high school incidents and what's going on in the NFL. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. And parents, I think the message is keep your eyes open, be aware of what's going on.